I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon session and want to introduce Iosif Király, who is a member of the artist group, collective, not sure what the term is, subREAL from Romania, an incredibly important group, together with Kalindan and initially one third member. Really the first comprehensive attempt to create an artistic archive for the effects of post-socialism in Romania and to a degree in Eastern Europe. To work with the material reality that so radically changed and transformed the landscape after the changes of 1989. And to do so in a way that was mindful both of artistic, cultural, and intellectual continuities and discontinuities in Romania. So really one can't overestimate the importance of the work that these two artists did to make us understand a bit better what it meant to grapple with these revolutionary changes, but to also kind of demask the degree to which this idea of revolution was in itself a kind of myth to some extent. That is to say, it was in itself a representation that perhaps needed to be critically examined. This idea of the radical rupture, I think that actually is one of the things that I admire most about your work, is to critique the idea that, you know, the history as rupture. Revolution is something that is, you know, that creates an absolute break between before and after, and to instead turn to and also critically examine some of these seemingly timeless myths that you know, to a surprising degree survived this so-called revolution of 1989. Anyway, the idea that we will that we had for this session was that after this brief introduction, Iosif would give a presentation, and that after the presentation there would be time for questions and answers. I may have some comments, or I may have myself some questions, but there'll be time for discussion afterwards. So I'm thinking it might be best perhaps for Iosif to go ahead now, and we'll have the word afterwards. Yeah? So
thank you, Sven.
Please welcome Iosif Király. Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank Christina inviting me here, and also Mrs. Dona Ricario, the director from Romanian Cultural Institute, who helped and contributed to my trip and in New York. I will start not only with serving art, but with the whole project rooted in this archive of the Arta magazine, was the Romanian art magazine, official, and was the only one. Was like in all these communist countries, it was imposed by the party and by the union of the artists. So there was this kind of union created to be easier to control the artist. And the magazine started in 1953 and was ended actually in 1993. We were the last editors. And then, but 3 years ago it started again, and it's issued already, I think, 7 new issues. So as many archives in the 90s, also the magazine archive was the point to be destroyed, and because during the process of privatization and everything which was connected with communism and being them factories or other kind of state institutions, they were just privatized, and the physical things belonging to those institutions and factories, they were sold, but the photographs were not considered at that time valuable goods to be, so otherwise maybe some people would have steal them or take them, and and this is a problem because it's quite difficult to, on the one side, in Romania, and especially for politicians, they are making a lot of discussion about history and about traces of our past, and but they are also the politicians, but also the people in general, they are not, they don't see the present or the close past as something valuable, important. And so we kept the magazine. So the Arta was, the magazine was in '93 when it was expelled from the last office, and everything was put on out of the building, and it stayed for some weeks, and we decided to take it and to keep it, to preserve it. And to do something in the future. And after 1 year, we started to look at this because we didn't know exactly what was in this. I would like to mention that was not an archive in the sense we understand an archive. I mean, a body of documents and an office to find them. There were only documents, especially photographs, but no, you couldn't find some specific if you wanted. So it was kind of mess in this archive because of the moving it in several locations, and in the end. So this is in '94 we applied in Berlin, the place institution called Künstlerhaus Bethanien. We made a selection, made an application and a file, and we got 1 year residency there. And then we sent all this material. It looks like this when it arrived in Berlin. We got a big studio, something like this, or maybe even a bit bigger. And this is the way how we counted 600 kilograms, because we have to measure it when we put it on the post office. And the images were local, most maybe 3/4 or 60% were Romanian art produced, but there was also part from the magazine received from other exchanging pictures from Romania with other magazines from different other countries. So were pictures with art from Vietnam, from Soviet Union, from Bulgaria, from Cuba, but also there was also art from, not only art from that period, but also from art history, different things, but in a smaller degree. And one of the main things was for us, purpose was to open public debates about archive, and to show that they are also real materials for artists, but also they are in how different way you can approach an archive. So our application in Bethanien was to make an event every month, to make an open studio and to make an event starting from this archive. So I'll not present all of them, I will present some of this. So this was the first, you already saw it, the first so-called photographic installation. This was the place where we were in. Here you can see on the left our beds, and we have a place where we were eating and a small fridge. So we were living and working and in this space. And at the beginning, we wanted to just to display and to see what was in this. So you can imagine all these pictures about art and way or another about art. There were art reproductions, portraits of artists, recordings from openings, all kind of art, painting, sculpture, ceramics, design, fashion, and so on. And it was, in a way, it worked as an installation, you could see it as a whole, but when you come closer, you can spend hours looking at details, and we try to put them in clusters and you could see groups with sculptures or with people or with and we made like open studios to people to come and look at these photographs. After 1 month, 3 weeks on 1 month, so they started to fall down. And we were waking up in the morning with pictures on of us. And at the beginning, we tried to fix them back, but then we said, okay, we'll leave it for 1 week or something like this, and then we will take down and we'll make another project starting from this. And then we made another open studio. It puts also some plastic foils on the ground, and the people could come and just pick up pictures and have a direct relation with each photograph. This is the second. The second installation we did also from this with using these photographs. This project is about the relation between artists and the power, the political power. Now this is an installation about maybe the most official Romanian artist in the communist time. It was called Ion Irimescu. He was a sculptor, and he was the type of artist who was always in close relation to the power. He was also before communist. He was at some position. Then he was quite young. But then immediately when the communists took the power, he became very official. Had several positions also in art academy, and he was president for 25 years. The Union of the Artists, which was the publisher of the magazine, and because of this reason, he was always on the cover of the magazine, and he always was his objects. And we can see here, and we decided to make a one-man show exhibition in Berlin, and the project was called "What Does a Project?" The exhibition was called "What Does a Project Mean?" Thinking of the fact that nowadays, to get a commission, you have to make a project for everything. So, and we made a fake letter from him applying to Kunstlerhaus Bethanien, and he said, I have this career, but I have you can see my overall. But my younger colleagues tell that I would like to make a monument in Berlin. I think I deserve. But my young colleagues said that I should make a project. And what does it project mean? My work is not enough to qualify myself to get this commission. And this is the front view of the exhibition. It's about optical illusion, about flat sculpture, and this is the rear view. We glue photographs and we cut them on plywood, and they look like this. And in the end, on the wall, and you could see this image, which was actually also pictures we found there among those envelopes with photographs. With Ioni Remescu, the guy shaking hands because he was the representative of the artist. He was every year giving prizes to the artists, but also giving prizes to the politicians from the as a president of the Union of Artists. And you can see here with this was the guy Brancusi. He was the leader before Ceausescu. He's also with Ceausescu and with, but also shaking hands with different artists. And it was interesting that after Romanian Revolution, many artists claimed that they were dissidents, that they were, were persecuted during the communism, but at a certain moment of their career, they shake the hand of Irimescu. And we wanted to open a discussion and to talk about the fact that the things were not that in black and white as they were presented immediately in early 90s, that only Ceausescu and some of his close, they were the bad guys and the rest were the good guys. And so the things were more mixed, and the relation of the artists with the power was more, and not only in Romania, but especially in countries which experienced dictatorial regimes. Maybe it's not a coincidence that in Germany and in Berlin we had this project was very successful and was very well received and understood, because Germans have also Arno Brecher, the guy who was doing this sculpture. The dictators, they love first architecture, it's the way how they express, and the second is sculpture. So this was the second project. And then we made another project which was not directly related with the archive, but because we did also, it was also during this residency in Berlin, about Brancusi. The other kind of artist, Brancusi, who is Romanian origin, artist who made his career, and he's known maybe by many people as a French artist, but he's like, I don't know, like Picasso or like Salvador Dali. He made his career in Romania, and he behaved like a Romanian, like a peasant. He's coming from peasant family and somewhere in but before he in 57, I think, before he died, he offered his studio to Romanian communist government, who rejected the studio, which is now next Centre Pompidou. Said that he's a representative of bourgeois. And some decades later, I think in 67, the cultural advisors of Ceausescu said that he was a bit good as a propaganda, to use communist propaganda, to use him, because he was coming from a traditional peasant family. He behaved like a Romanian. In his work, you could see Romanian influences from Romanian architecture. And they organized a big conference, and suddenly he became the Romanian artist. In 1990, the new democratic government decided to print the first bill from the new Romania, was with his head, the upper one. But then the National Bank commissioned a guy who was one of the painters who made many portraits of Ceausescu. He was a very official painter, and he was commissioned by the National Bank in 1990, so after the revolution, to make the new bill. But then I tell you this story because it's funny in a way and to understand also the background. But then was a big inflation, and after 1 year, the National Bank, I think they didn't pay from the beginning the money to the artist. And they didn't get, so the artists claimed more because it was inflation, and then the National Bank decided to print another bill with Brancusi. So it's the one is the second one. It's not the verse of the first one. For some years there were two bills. It was only the country where gave Dadaism and absurd theater can happen something like this. There were two bills with the same value. Most of them were okay, were valuable with Brancusi. So this is the artist. At the beginning they rejected. They didn't accept his donation, and suddenly after he is dead, he became a kind of national figure. And our performance was like this. We were standing in front of a washing machine, automatic, which was put on a short program, 20 minutes. And after it was finished, was also a video camera there in front of the machine, which was focused on this window of the machine. And you could see projected there, you could see that it's working, but you didn't know what was inside. And after the program of the machine was finished, we took out, and there were this kind of money with Brancusi. So it's also about the fact that he was at the beginning, when he was young, he was employed in some restaurants, and he was washing dishes, and he discovered the kind of system to put them in a net and spin the net and then let it in water, and so it's easy to wash them easy. And but also the fact that through art and also through some of his works, there are a lot of money washing too. So it's a debate in art today. This was a kind of performance we did with, because after we have a lot of pictures in this archive from the period of socialist realism, with all kind of posters against capitalism, against and when we arrived in Berlin, in Kreuzberg, there was we were shocked that was a different, I mean, a kind of propaganda where there was a very left radical kind of mixture between radical left, Turkish, Kurdish fights in posters on the walls. No? And we didn't understand. We saw that Viva Mao, Viva all kind of Marx, Lenin was there, and said, what's this? And then we decided to take those to make some copies from pictures in the magazine, and to get in a kind of dialogue with the graffitis or with the posters in Kreuzberg. There. So, and then we behave here like two immigrants staying in pajamas, and the people could enter, and on one wall was this visual thing for fights between lefties and Turks and Kurds, and it was totally confusion. And on the other wall was images from Romania, from the elections at the new democratic Romania, which was quite violent and quite passionate, also with posters everywhere. And this was funny. I don't know what this meant. It was a dictator technique, Berlin. Put a picture of Ceausescu. This is another project starting from an archive from pictures from a school in Timișoara, which I studied at in my high school. Was a school which has the model Bauhaus, the German school. Which this school in Timișoara was quite unique in the 60s and 70s. There were some new teachers who discovered Bauhaus, and they translated the pedagogical writings of Paul Klee and of Gropius and so on. And I studied in this kind, and at a certain moment in '95, we were invited with Călin to do something. There was a festival in Dessau, exactly in Bauhaus, the building. And we made an installation, a multimedia installation, also with some videos, and about Dessau and Timișoara, and meeting these schools. No one at that time exists anymore, so Bauhaus didn't exist anymore as a school. It was more like a library or a research institute, and the school in Timișoara also doesn't exist as it was when I studied, and we put them using these photographs and with some works of myself since I was studying there, and it was kind of installation with photographs and with works. And now we're going to this project called Serving Art. After this year in Berlin, when we work mainly with positive, with prints, photographs, we realized that there were some boxes also with negative films, rows of films. There were 6 by 6 centimeter black and white negatives. And we started to look in this negative, and we found this kind of situations when, in the middle was always an art object, and on the margins there were some people keeping a background if there was a sculpture. Because there was no Photoshop at that time, the photographer asked his assistants to wave, most of the time to wave the background, not to have wrinkles there, because it was to have a blurred background. And you could see some ghostly people there, and in front of the background, the black or a white background, and an art object. And you can see here that the photographer was not interested even if, because he knew that he will crop anyway the image, and doesn't matter to put it vertical or horizontal or how it was. Yeah. And what was interesting for us was this somehow the relation between art object and reality. Sometimes don't know if the fact that the art is not changing, it's the same more or less. You can find it in a museum or in a public space or somewhere. But the reality is, changing. The people getting older, or they are dying, or and sometimes it's it's mysterious. You don't know if, for example, this lady is this lady, or if she's the owner. And then you could see how and who is telling more about or this kind of weird, funny relation sometimes. The people were not. They were not conscious. They would behave like in front of a candid camera or so. They were not conscious that they will be in the frame or. Sadoveanu, one of the main writers of Romania. He's leaning on the chair. He's staying on the chair, and he's put on the chair. You can see that. Because it was easier to be retouched here, but was more difficult to retouch this thing, and so that's why I said, okay, it's too big to have a single background, and. And also, as I told you, this discussion about who's telling more about a specific period of time. It's telling art, sculpture, or painting, or or photography. You could see here the reality, and here's more the kind of propaganda. And we made an installation with something like 1,000. We made a selection about 1,000 of these pictures, and presented first in Künstlerhaus, in Academy Schloss Solitude, also in Germany, in Stuttgart. Then we tried to see how can we work further with these photographs, and we wanted to blow them up to make them like tableau, like this was in Berlin Biennale in 1998. Or to cut the art object and to present, to emphasize only the margins of the negative. And we blowed up, we made almost one-to-one the size of the margins, and was empty in the middle. So experience different kind of aesthetics and focusing on reality, not on this fiction, which is art. And then we made another exhibition also in Academy Schloss Solitude. It was called Serving Art 2, which we enlarge only these people, like ghosts, and we put them in the middle of the gallery and nothing on the walls. So the margins were in the middle, and and then we were invited to participate in Venice Biennial 1990, and we suddenly some people started to raise a discussion that we are not actually the authors of these pictures, and then was who is the author, who is the photographer, because we didn't claim that we did the photographs, but we presented something which never was presented, like putting like how to say, to give an example, like a sculptor is doing a sculpture, and the pieces leftovers, we are coming and collecting the leftovers and making an installation with the leftovers, and then who is the owner of this work which is connected with the initial photograph. And then we started to talk with lawyers, and there were actually two interesting questions. One was the right, who is the author of these images, because they were made by maybe hundreds of photographers during the period of time. So, and but for them was important only the middle. So they were cutting only the middle, and this was what. So the rest were not interesting. But the thing was that we saved the magazine, this collection of photographs to be thrown away, and suddenly we were accused that we are stealing the work of somebody else and making fame and money from this thing. And then the second was the right of the image, because in some pictures appeared maybe the wife of some photographers or somebody. So the lawyer said, okay, because they work with commission, and the negatives are at the archive, and they are presented as ready-mades. They cannot claim the authorship for for the whole picture. But they could claim the right of their image, some of them, the people who said, okay, we don't like the context where we present it. So because we are not public persons, we don't want to appear in this context. Although the context was not one which insulting one. So they have to prove why they don't like the context. So it was a interesting debate, and finally, after that, we were invited to make another project in Paris, in Jeu de Paume, and we decided, okay, to make a painted version to avoid this right for claiming that somebody is recognizable there. And we hired a painter, a young painter. We had some money for production. We made a contract, and then we also wanted to raise this question: who is the artist nowadays? Because many big names, they are not touching there, from Jeff Koons to, I don't know, Damien Hirst. I mean, they are also in history. Sometimes there were this kind of big enterprises. Now the master was doing only some elements, and the rest was done by. And if it's necessary to have the skills nowadays to be an artist, or only to have a concept or money to buy. So it was a kind of questioning these things. And on the other side, we wanted also to transfer the reproductions back into art, because there are art reproductions, and we wanted to paint them and to put them back in art. So also this was a challenge too. So now these are some details. We commissioned a painter and gave him some hundreds of photographs, and he painted them. Transfer them back into art. And this was the installation which we did in 2000 Jeu de Paume. This is from the opening. It's a painted version of the serving art one. And it's also about this index we were talking last days, because in photography has also icon and has index. It's a proof that it's real. Painting is only icon, doesn't have an index. So that's why in the trials you see that there appeared on the TV some drawings of the persons who are prosecuted, or so you don't see photographs of them until they are not. And then we continue with the project. We said, okay, we will enter in another project, but we start from we continue this aesthetic, and started the project which is about framing, about context. It's called Interviewing the Cities, and we preserve this kind of aesthetic. But in the middle, instead of an art object, is an artist, or a person from the art scene, and we did it in different locations. And we cut it, the artist, from her or his context, but we let also enough space to see, and also these pictures, they were a kind of collaborative collaboration, because we started, we established a meeting with those persons and explain our project, and they talk about their projects, and in the end we made the group photographs when the artists are there, and that also the people are there. So it's and also the environment, their private environment. Yeah. So he has, this lady Saskia Bosch is a quite well-known curator. I think she's living in New York. She wanted to be together with her son, and we put the son in a mirror. He was staying here at the table and could see there. And or these are two Orthodox radical artists from Romania. They behave like sculpturing only, doing only angels and only holy things, and an art critic. And it's interesting that then you can see the people of power. This was the rector from the Vienna Art Academy, and he was very proud from a Donald Judd chair he had, and he wanted to be there. And then we photographed, I don't think I have here, the guy from, who was the curator from Documenta, Rudi Fuchs. He was at that time a director from, I think, a Stedelijk, and he had also a Donald Judd. He also photographed a pose like this, and people in power, you know. And artist, or and also this guy is Harald Zeman. He's the father of he established this concept of curator. He did the famous Documenta 5, and he had himself a huge archive. This was in a former factory. Has thousands of. You can see here it's only a corner of his archive. Actually, we took the photographs 3 months before he died, and he was difficult. It took 2 months to get appointed, because his assistant said, no, he has appointment with his biographer. And wow, it's cool to have a biographer, but he was somehow, I think, was preparing to, And he was very nice. We spent 2 or 3 hours with him. He made a visit. This collection actually some years ago was bought by Getty. His archive was acquired by Getty, and I don't know who it will be quite difficult to make order, because he was just looking. Then this is from Joseph Beuys. I don't know. This is a trabuc from Fidel Castro. Like that. This kind of stories. So this is the second layer of this interviewing the cities, called framing, and it's a performative photography. With the power of the frame. When you see a frame, you see art object. And you can see here the shadow of the frame. You know, actually it's empty. You could look through the frame, and but people usually think that it's an illusion, or you have a photograph, or you have a mirror or something like this. And it was funny that unfortunately we didn't have for these pictures we needed an assistant to guide us to how to keep the curtain and the frame, but there was really like a public performance. There were people coming and say, okay, can you take a pictures in the frame, and they were very interactive. And the last layer from this project is called listening to statues. And it looks like this. Now it was, we looked at the public monuments. They seems that like being some silent witnesses of the city, when nobody take them serious, nobody asked them what they think. And we gave them the chance to this is in Vienna. This project was quite successful in those, when we exhibited in those cities, because the people say, they don't see them anymore. Actually, they are appealing more to tourists or to people coming from abroad. Now, when you pass every day near them, you don't start not seeing them, and we somehow this in Bucharest. Some really like that. Seems that like they have something to say. And yeah, this is a kind of map we did in 2012 with the whole project, and we presented it in Camera Austria in Graz. Because the things are connected, as all of them are coming one from another. All these projects, and until we made this big retrospective in Mnac, we never show all the projects, and the whole thing is maybe more interesting than each individual part, and you can understand them better when you see the whole story. Okay, this was. Thank you.
So maybe say a few words of things that struck me that I thought might lead to some further discussion, focused perhaps on the archive. And since that's the focus of this conference, I mean, the first thing that one notices, thinking about the archive as you were speaking, is the incredible centrality of photography in your work. Yeah, the photography, as you mentioned, often taken to be somehow the most archival of all media because of its specific relationship with time, its indexicality. But for you, the photograph, like everything you do, is contextual, right? I mean, the most important thing seems to be to examine photography as a function of context. And then one sort of thinks, okay, subREAL, Romania, you know, you think, okay, so everything you do is in some sense a function of establishing and critiquing context in Romania. But there are also things that I realized are actually, well, and so Romania, but also then this effort to always think in some ways relationally, right? I mean, you often establish relationships between places, between Romania and Germany, between the East and the West. And often there seems to be this effort to sort of take down what seem to be facile oppositions, to kind of break down our convenient habit of thinking in oppositions, particularly during the Cold War. That was a very convenient way of thinking. And now people say that it's become more difficult to think in this way, but it seems like a constant in your work to establish continuities where we want to see ruptures and breaks. But then one also realizes that there are things that actually have a remarkable similarity or proximity to projects undertaken by Western artists. So when you, for example, were showing your photographs of the Arta photo archive, I was reminded of Andrea Fraser's project in which she goes into the archive of a big art museum in Switzerland and basically messes it up. So she takes out, you know, all the folders, all the files, and puts them on one big heap. And, you know, this goes by the name of, I guess, institutional critique. And I think it's important work. And I was thinking when I was watching these photographs that show these people holding these background, you know, these backgrounds, this black cloth. I mean, in a sense, so on the one hand, you're talking about a specific practice in Romania during the time of communism, of socialism, but it's also, more broadly speaking, a critique of the museum. I mean, whether it's a black cloth or a white wall, this is what a museum does. Yeah? A museum isolates artworks. A museum puts them on a white wall before which they can be seen in isolation. And why this is done is to allow for the possibility for one artwork hanging against the white wall to become somehow relatable to other artworks in the same collection on the same wall. In other words, for us to be able to make sense of this artwork in a very specific context that is highly constructed, highly ideologized. But we wouldn't know it if we're just standing in front of the white wall in the museum. Then all we see is the painting against the white wall. So it's precisely the same operation that you have demonstrated by showing us the pictures of people holding up this black background, before which we see these sculptures. And institutional critique is little more than precisely try to take, usually in writing, not through photographs, but to establish a kind of a broader frame within which suddenly you don't just see the white wall, but you see the apparatus of the museum behind it. Yeah? So this is why Andrea Fraser went into the Swiss Art Museum and she took out all those files and folders in order to show there is an archive behind the museum that makes all this somehow, that enables all this, that is in some sense that precise part of the museum that's withheld from us. So your work with the Arta collection, while on the one hand it's focused on Romania, is also a wonderful way of illustrating in the medium of photography how institutional critique and critiquing the museum is done, and that you do it in the context of Romania it makes it all the more rich, and of course there are some specifics here. But I thought it was remarkable to see how broadly applicable in some sense this work is, and how it can really help us think through the relationship between, you know, institutions of art and their archives.
Yeah. Also, something which we wanted to show is that, and this is a, yeah, it's a not a big discovery, that the photographs, they have this, and they are, have this power, and to be every photograph has the chance to become an art object. So this is, and the artists from the conceptual art until today proved this, and there are many artists who are doing using vernacular photographs and creating a context for those objects, from I don't know, Christian Boltanski, or so many to make them and to make them art objects. So every photograph, and that's why maybe it's worth not to throw them away, because what we were discussing in the break was that is this question, especially in digital age, should artists and also people delete from time to time what they are photographing, or keep everything? And especially an artist, for artists is this danger to be commercialized or used things which you would not exhibit them, or not. But on the other side, if they are, they can be used, or if they are used with talent or with somebody who's has a sense for this, then every photograph could. I don't know. Maybe I'm curious. What do you think? Should we delete photographs, or just keep them? Or also, this was a question also for writers. Now, should we keep every notes, every letters what we are doing, or there are some, if we become famous, or then they will appear in public, also things which maybe we would not like to be, or to be, and who is deciding this? And in the history of photography, there's this case with a street photographer, quite well known, Gary Winogrand. He was doing every day. He was photographing. After he died, remained some 3,000 of undeveloped rolls of films. 3,000. He didn't even develop. I mean, for him. And then is this question: are all those photographs were to be kept, or do they represent, or do all those photographs represent him, or wouldn't he? So ideal is for a photographer to make selection. There were few photographers, of course, in the history, like Edward Weston, who made an edition or something like this from their prints. Okay, I want to be like this kind of gray, not darker, not yeah, this kind of. So it's like a testament, like yeah, okay, like. But.
Yeah, and I thought it was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to.
Not at all.
I wanted to ask if working from leftover, forgotten, discarded archive. Hi. So I wanted to ask you. Also, if working from scraps and ready-mades and discarded archives makes you very careful with your own archives and the way you curate them. Are you afraid that some other artist at some other point will will go through your own archives and select and crop and reuse? Are you very careful about what you delete, what you keep, how you archive?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't have time to think. I always have something else, but from time to time, maybe I should. The problem nowadays, especially when this digital photo, since digital, we entered in digital age, is to organize things, not to produce and not to store. Also, with the storing is a problem, but how to organize and to because I have a photography, I have digital camera already for 15 years. And it's difficult to find something. It's more and more difficult. I keep a kind of opus, but I keep it chronological. And sometimes I don't know when I was there, in which year, and which. So it's there. Of course, there are softwares of keywords, and but yeah, I didn't have time to learn and to put all of my images in this kind of order. So yeah, I'm not very concerned about if somebody will. Of course, depending how it will be, but when you are not there anymore, you cannot.
Can I ask something? Because you speak only about photography and archive. I think that you emphasize in this kind of work with the archive the idea that the archive are not the others being put in order or not. The archive are as I am the archive. I'm like in the statement of Rimbaud, je suis autre, les autres. That means all this contextualization of the images that you find, to put together, to cut, to put in a context, to destroy the context, to make the subject a framer, the frame a subject, all these things. Remember me some important philosophers like Kierkegaard and the Amphibologia, the interest put on the polyphony of voices that you put in images. In every images is the photograph that make the photography, is the archive where this photography exists in order or not, is an anecdote, a narrativity, a novel, because I can write a novel seeing that can develop my imagination. Is a provocation between the objectivity and subjectivity, is a joke, and for me it's very important to try to find a a philosophic signification about the mankind, about the condition of artists, that is not only the mimesis, because it's provocation and being together, object and subject. Even in the idea that my body is my mind, they are not a separation. And my subject is a subject that can belong, because we make this distinction between archive and the people that put in order this archive, that can lost, that can don't take care of that cannot understand or understand in a wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, for me as an artist, I'm pleased to see that they can tell more than. So this is a proof that it's a good work of art should be more intelligent than the artist, or somehow more to let more to open more. It's a problem if the artist is more intelligent than the work. I mean, it can tell more than tell tells the work. So then, yeah, we of course we had some ideas, some directions we followed, but yeah, it's a compliment that they can show also something which we didn't think.
I want to ask you something. I'm not sure how to put this, but so you in the case of the Arta archive, you sort of pick up this archive ready-made, yeah, and then you basically have fun with it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so there was this. It's like, you know, people were giggling and laughing, and there's this sort of fun that clearly you're having. And so, was it important to you to get away from this notion of the artist as somebody who has who puts skill and technique into what they're doing, who creates something important and serious? One almost has the impression that you really didn't want to work for what you do. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I just mean there is actually, you know, there is this Eastern European thing about the artist who doesn't work. Yeah, think of Mladen Stilinovic, you know, who is in. We saw the picture of you who, in bed. Yeah, you live in the archive in the Künstlerhaus Bethanien. Instead of using it as a studio to work, you use it as an apartment, as a flat. So I'm just interested in this. What was your understanding of what is it that made an artist when you were doing these things? What did you think made you? What is it that made you artists at this time? What was it? Was it a relationship to work, or a relationship to non-work? Was it more play? Was it?
I mean, we work a lot. I mean,
I was worried I would be misunderstood in this.
I stayed, days and days in darkroom printing. They were hand printing. Every pictures were handmade. Was not sent to shops to print it. So it was quite a lot of work, only to put all of them on the walls there. So but we had fun, and but there was also kind of melancholy, nostalgic, looking at these things. You know? It's the first thing. It's fun, but it's not only.
Yes, but you were literally sort of framers of situations. You didn't create images. You didn't take the photos for the most part. You framed them. I think that's an important difference. So there was work. I'm not for a second saying that you didn't work. I know you were extremely busy and so on. But it is not the kind of work that people might traditionally expect an artist to be doing.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, from conceptual, you know, always I explain conceptual art to students like in this Japanese fights, you know, the judo, when it's like take, and it's more like traditional, like painting and sculpture.
Yeah.
It's or karate, then is a one called Aikido, which is more like yeah, defensive, but somehow beating the adversary, yeah, no, not confusion, but using his energy or something. So the conceptual artist is more hiding and not touching so much, and using ready-mades and recontextualizing, looking different. So it's not. I mean, from the perspective of a traditional artist, you can say that this is not art. This is, yeah, you are lazy. You are not doing real. So you don't have skills. And also, for our perspective, the worst photographs, because these are technical reproductions of art objects, and those who are the most approximative, the worst from the technical point of view, they were more interesting for us, because they have this kind of, yeah, those who are perfect were framed perfect, you didn't see anything around or put on the wall like this, and they were not interesting for us. But those who are the most yeah, approximative them, from a technical point of view, they were more, yeah, could tell more. So we have actually had a different way of looking and showing this, and we think that, yeah, we are the owners of these images. So nobody saw them like this. You know, they saw them, and in the first installation, and from pictures from the prints from the archive, all of them, they were crops. You couldn't see people. So only when we look and we enlarge the negatives, then although if we didn't press the shutter, we are the author of this or half, or I don't know. It's a I think it's an interesting discussion, who is the author, and there are many from postmodernism on artists who are, yeah, challenging the authorship and the author, the master.
You just spoke a little bit about this, how you chose some of the photos from the Serving Art collection. But I'm wondering if you can say a little bit more about the choices and decisions you make while in the archive, because you're working with so much material, and also you're presenting a lot of material. I think in one of the, you said you had like about 1,000 images in one of the galleries. So yeah, like how do you make choices, decisions? And it's not just one of you, you know, there's like two of you, so.
We made, especially, first of all, about how interesting for us was the surrounding. We're not necessarily interested about the work of art, but of the reality, how, or the relation within art, or within different elements. So, and then we made this selection, and this also was grouped on, on people, or were only hands, you could see only fingers, or heating system, or cars, or in the background. So we made groups of them. And, but of course, those who involved people, they were the most interesting, because but not all of them were with people, or also with some other objects or surroundings. And there also, I think, because we did also some workshops with, when we were in Solitude, when we worked with negatives, we were invited to, in Göteborg, there is a school of photography and film there. And we went with some materials, photographic negatives, and we gave them to students, and every student did different approaches. And if you give the same, I don't know, 100 or 1,000 negatives or archive of documents to 100 artists, each will make a different approach of different. So it's this is what we wanted to prove, that how valuable material is this. So they don't, not only for, of course, an art historian maybe would think that it's a barbarian thing, but we did with this and that, with some of things. But they are not only documents for art historians or for historians, or for they are more than could be useful for different other people. And I was talking last days with Christina about also the archive of Securitate, and I think if you want to have a real image of Romania, and also these things about the life of an artist in Romania, you could see here, looking on the margins, you could see how they were living, how the studios were looking, how they were dressed, how the real reality. So also on these photographs from Securitate, you could see it's always a person. It's exactly more or less like here. It's a person in the middle. Now it was the subject was followed by but the margins you can see the street, the people with plastic, anti-plastic bags, or with trying to find something to buy or to stay in a line or something. Or cars, you could see the real Romania, the real life, and so it's it's interesting, and I don't think that artists have a different approach than historians or than anthropologists, and maybe architects will see something different in these pictures.
Quick question. I've sensed that there is some sort of tension in the Arta installation of photographers between photographs between sort of you as an artist and you as an archivist, and in a way to make a point about this archive is to destroy it. And I was wondering, when you were doing this installation with the photographs falling down and kind of decaying and dilapidating as being part of the point that you are making, so to make a point about the archive is sort of destroy the archive. How far did you allow yourself to go along those lines of the destruction? What actually happened with these photographs afterwards? Did you still try to preserve a sort of identity of an archivist in parallel with the identity of an artist and do something with this body to preserve it as a totality, or the artistic statement was the primary one and it actually did not matter that the whole archive is also being
we gave
deteriorating in the
material,
process?
Almost the whole material, we gave it to the Museum of Contemporary Art in Bucharest. At that time it was no museum, but was a kind of department of exhibitions. And there was a guy, the director, who was a big collector himself, but also has and he was also a photographer. And he took it, and because he was the director of the Museum of Contemporary Art, and he gave it to the archivist and to put it in a larger collection they have at the museum. So this was only a part of it. But so now it's in a safe place, and it's there are some art historians who try to put them. We put them in envelopes, back in envelopes, and we gave. But there was no order between the envelopes. On the back of each photograph was written what was this from, almost on the back. And it was interesting. Now it's not something a bit different, but speaking about the aura of a photograph. I read an article, a very interesting thing, that now there are a lot of news agencies, from the last 10 years, they sold the archive. They digitized, scanned everything, and sold. And some of them, they were put in auctions. And the value of the photograph was done by the back of the image, not of the front of the image. This was because on the back they have the stamps from where the photograph traveled, from which newspaper to which newspaper. And then the back made them a kind of index, made them unique compared with other prints made from the same negative. And because the collectors want to buy a unique object, or if there's not unique, to buy something which only a few other people have. That's why this pressure on the photographers to make editions which is nonsense for photography. Is not like in graphic art, but they make editions, but to collectors to have a kind of feeling that they have something which only a clear number of other people have, and not they don't buy with the price of an art object a poster. So this is it's interesting that the back of the photograph, these news photographs, made them unique and gave the aura of and exactly like these pictures they have at the back, and also from family albums they have on the back written and made them in a way unique.
About the things, the ideas, the scenarios that create in your imagination this kind of images. The fact that we speak so much about these images, the fact that we have different opinions, the fact that we want to communicate together and to explain what kind of feelings we have, what we have in mind, is for me important, because the idea, the general idea of the préjugé is that an archive can have only a direction of the meaning, with only one direction of the meaning. An archive of a political magazine have only this kind of
I think an archive is more like a monster without conscience. So it is something which, So depends from which point of view you access it, and you can give meaning. That's why at least all this. So in contemporary art, there's a trend, a clear direction with artists working with archives, and all the projects are different and. Interesting.
The idea of palimpsest, that is an old idea, but the manner that we create what our hands made or our eyes is this kind of palimpsest that is in the modern art every time, not only from Duchamp. It's a poem by Tristan Tzara, the very important Dadaist and avant-gardist. And the name of the title of this poem is The Approximative Man. This interpretation are in the same time approximation of your ideas. And I like the approximative in our life, not the definitive.
It's interesting that in a way, I mean, you're also writing the history of different types of archives in Eastern Europe. I mean, so you're working with the Arta archive, but when you were discussing your work with this Romanian sculpture, what is it, Emirescu? You were mentioning in passing, but it's actually really important, that this was the time in the 1990s when the Soros centers were opened, that what artists began to primarily do was not do sculptures or, paint paintings. It was write projects. They write project proposals. So that type of archive would be a very different one. That is the archive of all those proposals that, artists were writing in the 1990s to get the grants that would allow them then to do work funded by, let's say, the Soros foundations that were beginning to be active in Eastern Europe at that time. A very different type of archive from the Arta archive. Yeah? So how art and the production of contemporary art generates different types of archives, depending on the different context in which they operate, is another aspect of your work that's quite interesting. Yeah.